We're here with George Parks, and George, you are the our special instructor of the drum majors. You are the leader of the leaders, so to say. Here at MBA, we have a camp of approximately 1,200 kids, of which 200-300 of them come to be drum majors. These are kids within their own organizations throughout the country, have already been selected, kind of gleaned out as floating to the top of the barrel as being potential leaders, and they're going to lead their organizations. What we're trying to find out about is what are those qualities that are in those kids that make them that way? What is it that first gets them to that point of saying, that's what I want to do?
Well, it's a challenging question because there's just so many things, and it's difficult to say that one thing will make a leader. If we
give me several.
Right. Okay. A lot of words pop into mind. Enthusiasm, being energetic, having the kind of personality that people will want to be involved in, and having the kind of personality that people can respect and enjoy sometimes. People who are dedicated, people who are willing often to put somebody else first or put something other first than just me, to be able to put an organization first and realize that through successful accomplishment of the goals of the organization, they'll make themselves feel good. People that will become totally dedicated to doing the best job they can in their area, not somebody that wants to yell and scream at somebody else and then not do their own job. It has to be somebody who's willing to be a very hard worker to earn their own areas.
So there's a natural kind of, these kids already show and exude some kind of pride about themselves, right?
Well, yeah, I guess stupid not to mention that word first. That pride certainly is probably one of the most important qualities.
Okay, so self-esteem is obviously a quality that's already there, right?
Not as often as you might think. It's amazing how often we get people that are just so totally introverted and shy that end up coming wanting to be drum majors and sometimes accepted already as drum major. But to be successful as one, they've got to be ready to, and they've got to be ready to go forward with it and be very aggressive and be able to show the energy and confidence and things that are needed.
Caring enough to help your band be the best that it can.
Aha.
Teaching and helping other people to be their best.
Showing responsibility towards your fellow band members and directors.
Working hard to help other people.
Leadership.
It's doing the very best to help the people in the band.
Loving and caring enough to put yourself on the line.
It's trying to set a good example so that way others can learn.
Leadership.
Leadership, leadership, I think, is the responsibility that you have to teach others what you've learned and therefore learning by that experience.
A kind of giving of yourself?
Yeah.
Thanks. Leadership.
Bestowing confidence on people, make sure that they can accomplish something in life.
Very good. Thank you. Mike, where are you from?
Olathe, Kansas.
All right. What is leadership to you?
Leadership is commanding a certain amount of respect, but keeping in touch with your ego and remembering what your friends feel about how you are, how you were before you were a drum major.
Ego, that's a good one. Your ego or their ego?
Mainly my ego. I had a personal experience with that, and then my friends talked to me about it, so I'm in touch with myself now about that.
That's real good. You kind of talk about your ego, and when you become a drum major, you suddenly are put into a position of authority and power, and it's real easy to kind of let your head get big, huh?
Yeah, it did. And then my friends talked to me, and I saw what I was acting like, and I'm really thankful for them helping me out like that. So
great. Thanks, Mike. Leadership.
It's putting yourself on the line and being there to make others the best they can be and the best you can be.
Putting yourself on the line means that relates to the other word we used before called risking?
Yes, sacrificing a lot of things that you want to do to help others.
As a drum major with a band, sometimes you can be in a community out doing a parade or something, and there might be some people on the sidelines, some other young people making fun of you. We call them burnouts sometimes. How do you as a drum major exert your leadership then?
I mostly ignore what they say because I know I can, I am what I'm doing, and I believe in what I'm doing.
So maybe they're the ones that are suffering the problems and not you, huh?
Yes.
Very good, thank you. Leadership.
Let's see, it's being there when a band member or when the band needs you, and just being really committed.
To them, huh?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, here we are at MBA, and the discussion that we're having is about leadership. And Howard, your last name is G-E-E?
Right.
How's it pronounced?
Gee.
As not in G, but as in Gee.
Right.
Okay. And Howard, what are you doing here?
I'm a member of the SWAG team, specifically assigned to work on the AV, the camera crew, I guess. But more importantly than that is, as I view my assignment, to interact with the participants of this camp and to make their experience worthwhile, having gone through some of the things they're experiencing now.
Okay, so you are from Utah, right? And you came all the way from Utah to Wisconsin here. Tell me about that.
There were 4 of us smashed into a little Honda Civic, and we drove straight through with about a 3-hour rest. So when we got here, we were all walking on our hands and knees. And it was, for the most part, an uneventful trip, I'd guess.
Okay, but you made that long haul all on your own to donate your services here for a solid week. Why would someone do that?
Because there's something that we get from helping others, something that I enjoy very much is being able to help other people. There's not too many other opportunities that I've seen like this where you can totally give yourself to helping somebody else and watch somebody else receive it so gratefully.
Okay, so you're one of the volunteer SWAG team. Now, what we're talking about in this tape is leadership, and there's a lot of qualities to being a leader that I think you could probably share with us some of your thoughts about that. So what does that mean to you?
Being a leader? Yeah. Most of all, being a leader means, to me, being a servant. It's not so much standing up in front of somebody and showing them how much you know, as much as being willing to share that knowledge in a more friendly situation instead of, yeah, I'm the leader and you're following me. It's more of a, I'd like to help you learn and grow, and the joy that comes from watching that person learn what you've already learned.
Okay, so last night in one of the sessions we talked about leadership a little bit. We didn't touch on the word so much, but we talked about commitment. Does that have anything to do with leadership?
To be a leader, you have to be committed. I think they run hand in hand.
You have to be a good leader, do you have to first learn how to be a follower?
I definitely think so. If somebody jumping into a leadership situation with no sense of having followed somebody before won't be a good leader, I don't think, because he won't know what he's looking for.
Okay. I noticed you operate while you've been here and serving and working hard to support this whole event. And one of the things I notice about you is initiative. How does that come up for you?
Well, I guess in a leadership situation, if you don't have initiative, you won't be a leader. And I guess that is what a leader is somebody who takes initiative to make things happen.
Okay, now, initiative as such is the ability to kind of look at things, look at the situation, see what's needed, and then to jump into action, right?
That's a good explanation of the
Okay, now, I watched you do that a whole lot in every place you go. You kind of look at the whole and you say, this needs this, and I can do that, and somebody needs to do that, so you go to do that. Is that right?
Yeah. Just picking out problems, and well, I guess that's what the whole SWAG team is all about, is seeing the situation, looking at how that can be improved, and then acting on the assumptions you make. that's the whole basis behind the swag team, is that it was explained to me, and I really like that idea. I think it's great.
Okay, so we're standing in back of us here are the drum majors, which are the young people who come from the various parts of the country from their individual bands to get training in leadership, training to be a drum major, how to lead their group on and off the field. So they're working with attitudes, working with that inner sense of what a leader needs to do. From your standpoint, I notice, a great deal of leadership qualities in you, and we just talked about the ability to look at the whole, to kind of summarize what's needed to make things go in a forward direction. And that even goes to things like what you did in the cafeteria this afternoon. What do you do?
Well, all I did was take 2 other students' trays back to the line, which wasn't anything too big. It was just something I thought I could do.
Okay, but I take issue with you saying it's not anything too big, because that's what leaders do, is that they set an example, right?
That's true.
Okay, so it takes first a heads-up kind of approach to it, that you have to see that there's a need, and by setting an example, others can follow your example, and in your case, your example is always one of giving.
Well, that's very contagious, a giving attitude. You see somebody else doing something nice for somebody, and or if somebody does something nice for you, then you want to say, hey, that's great, I want to go help somebody else now, because it felt so good to receive that. And since you know how good you felt, then you want to have somebody else share that with somebody else. And that's a very contagious attitude, I think. And all the, you watch people in action, and you can see it just going around, especially during this camp. I've noticed that.
Yeah, there's a lot of giving that goes on here. And I think what we're obviously trying to do is set examples for others to see that that's the way to make things work, not only in the band, in the schools, at home, but it's a willingness to give of yourself to support others. And what happens when you do that, it's interesting that I've noticed that there's some kind of reward in doing that, isn't there?
Yeah, a personal satisfaction of knowing, hey, I helped that guy. That's one of the neatest feelings around, I think. Just that, to know that you've helped somebody else out, I think it's great.
For me, I notice, and I want to ask you the same question, for me there's a little sense of pride or some other kind of reward in there that comes from when you give and you know that people have observed that there's kind of a, you raise yourself up and you say, that took hold.
Yeah, and then you want to go out and do it some more. If you know somebody's, if I know that somebody has appreciated me doing something for them, then it makes me want to do it some more and just keep going and keep going.
Yes. It's an interesting thing because we don't talk about that too much in our society, but it seems as though my experience of a whole lot of the values and good things that I get out of life happen to be, when I give of myself, I get like 10 times back.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, so there's a tendency to want to do more of that, and it seems like that's the attitude here. And leadership has a lot to do with the willingness to give of yourself and not knowing that you're going to get a reward, but the bottom line is what?
Just the personal satisfaction.
You do get the reward.
Yeah, you do get the reward.
Here we are at MBA, and in the background of the Marines Drum Bugle Corps performing for the audience here. And this week has been a really great week because we've got to talk with a lot of young people and work with their band directors and so forth and talk about leadership. We've got to talk about commitment and responsibility and all of those qualities that are necessary for success for young people in later life, in any part of their life, actually. But you're a person, Charlie, that has, a fantastic program, and you're a mover of young people, a motivator. You get to deal with your band program, and I know that what goes on in the band program is that in the course of things, you have to select people to take charge, to be leaders. I'm trying to find what those qualities are that you notice about people at an early stage, and how do you nurture and develop, and all of those thoughts about defining that leadership, and how do you do that?
Wow.
Start with any part of it.
Well, I think just first of all, when we start talking about leadership, it's important just to take the word leadership, and it means to lead. If you're in a race and you're running a race and you are leading a race, you are ahead of somebody, you really can't see them. You kind of have to hope that somebody's behind you. And I think a lot of that same thought process is true when we're talking about kids. I think we have to set the example as directors. Our younger students, then, the stronger ones tend to be the ones that are closer to you. They follow you a little bit more. I think a great example is if you take scouting and you take a group of Cub Scouts in the woods for the first time. I really doubt whether or not you'd say, okay, kids, you go that way and I'll be there 5 minutes later. You know, it's like this guy in front is going to swat the path and point where the stones are and where the gullies are. And I think the same thing is really true in band directing. We have to show the kids the way. We have to say, okay, come on, and be careful of not doing this and don't do this. And those people that come up real close to you, the kids that are really behind you, they start picking up on that. It's really nothing that you have to tell them, but they're the kids that ask the questions because they see you move the rock. They see you have to break off this branch in order to go forward, and they ask questions. And I think when you answer their questions, they're able to start putting it all together and saying, so that's why he does it. And I think the next thing is trust that the kids will follow. And they will. They always do. And by giving kids trust, by letting them assume some responsibility, and then rewarding them for successful assumption of that responsibility, they develop a confidence, a level of confidence, and even a greater level of trust that they now can. Well, they feel like you'll give them something to do, and they'll do it for you. You know, it's like doing a favor for someone. The person that asks you to do the favor really doesn't feel the best. The person that does the favor always feels better because they feel like this person has enough trust in me and feels close enough to me to allow me to do something that they would normally do. That whole responsibility thing. So I think that's really important for leadership with the kids, and asking them to do something, and making sure they know it's special, making sure that they know that this is something I would do, and it's important for them to see you cleaning instruments and tightening music stands, and it's important for them to see you put in long hours and maybe practice your own horn, or maybe pat somebody on the back, or if they're involved in other activities, it's important to show up at their soccer practices or their tennis matches or their track meets, because then they understand that you're really interested in them as a person rather than them as a trumpet player or them as a woodwind player. You know, it's the whole thing of that we should, you know, the cliche, make music with people, or make people with music, instead of using people to make music, you know, but by using the art form that we have and the activity that we have to allow them to grow and be responsible and show that their worth as a person, their commitment as a person is worth something.
Okay, so I get a lot of what you said just has to do with your feeling that you need to set examples for young people, and that leaders kind of is like the cream in a batch of milk, it floats to the top. The leaders step forward, or at least make some gesture that they're interested. Then, once that happens, what do you do then?
Well, then I think it's a growth process. Number one, you have to allow them to make some mistakes. They're going to make some mistakes. It's just as the new band director that goes into a school the first time, the principal better make sure that he allows that person to make a mistake or two. And we have to allow those kids to make a mistake or two, because that's how we learn, that's how we grow. And I think if we allow them to make those mistakes and couple that with clearly delineated goals and talk about cause and effect with the kids. A prime example, Larry, is being up here for the Whitewater Week. I have 55 kids with me, I have 2 faculty members from the school, and I put them on one bus, and I put my band president in charge of the second bus. I had to come up early and judge a show in Chesterton and had to be here early for the staff. So I had my band president in charge of the second bus. He's a senior this year. There were no other adults on the bus. And I sat down with him and I told him why it was so important. You know, I told him the level of responsibility that now was on his shoulders, and that if I were going on this trip on the bus, that's the bus I would be on. And since I'm not there, somebody has to do that. Somebody has to make sure that everybody's on their bus and that roll is taken and that the trash gets picked up on the bus and that nobody's running off when they make a meal stop, and just let him know that he's in charge. Well, you know, they, as a leader then, you had better set the example where it's not a dictator situation, where you don't demand them, but you show them how to do it, you know? And it's the little things. I mean, we all are looking for attention, so he got the attention, but then now he has to make sure that he gives that same kind of attention to all the kids on the bus. And it was just unbelievably successful. In fact, it was funny, the bus driver said that bus was much better behaved than the bus with the faculty members on it.
That's great.
Now you are the person in charge. You're the person that people are going to look up to. And it's funny how we deal with it. Start thought. All right, there are a couple ways you can deal with that problem. Number one, you can allow yourself to get in with the group. You can allow yourself to laugh along with everyone else. You can allow yourself to be there and cut that person down with everyone else. That's one option. The second option is to remove yourself from that situation. They're talking about somebody, at least get away from it. Don't be involved in it. At least get away from it. There's a third option. Hey, be a leader. Frankly, John, I don't appreciate that. That person's part of my band, and I don't appreciate you talking about him like that. Be a leader. Don't let it be the popular thing to go and make somebody else feel uncomfortable. Start thought. You want your band to do well? Have everybody very comfortable about being there. If somebody's uncomfortable about being in the band, they're not going to have a good band. Does that make sense? That whole situation? You are no longer in a situation where you can play favorites. You are no longer in a situation where you can decide who you're going to like and who you're not going to like. You have to be willing to work with everybody. Number 6, make an effort to support people before they have demonstrated their support for you. Make an effort to support people before they have demonstrated their support for you. There's an old saying which kind of has gotten mixed up over the years. The saying used to say one thing and now it says something else. The new saying is, do unto others before they get a chance to do unto you. Somehow that's wrong. And so as a result, we are always trying, well, I've got to make sure that I show my dislike for that person so he doesn't have an edge on me. Start thought. If somebody doesn't like you, chances are they think you don't like them. And so they just have to make sure that they dislike you first. It's amazing. Try being nice to the person. Try going out of your way to support that person, and it may shock the heck out of them. Let me tell you another little story. I was driving down the road one day, all right? And well, actually, I was driving a little bit too fast. It was, I was going about 50. Speed limit was about 35, okay? So here I am, and I'm kind of cruising. I'm in a hurry, you know. I'm just having a nice country road, having a good time, just driving down. And all of a sudden, somebody starts to pull out in front of me. Very lightly, and I'm not into heavy horns. I kind of hit the horn, drive on. The guy, you know, pulls out afterwards. We didn't collide. We didn't kill anybody. I went and pulled into a store. The guy pulled in the store behind me. The guy came up to me, and he was yelling and screaming, "What's the matter with you? We have kids on that road. Blah, 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 blah. How can you do that?" Blah, blah, blah. And I looked at him for a minute, and I just looked at him, and I said, "I'm sorry. You're right. I was driving too fast. I'll watch it. I apologize." I walked in, and the guy was just like, "Oh, well, okay." I went in to get my milk and eggs, and the guy he went in to get whatever he wanted. I was at the counter. He came up to me and goes, listen, man, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to yell at you. I just had a bad day. You know? It was like the guy was ready to kill me. Now, I had two options of dealing with that. I could go and yell and scream back, and we could have had a good argument. He probably would have killed me, you know? But I chose the option of not antagonizing. I chose the option of, hey, the guy was right. Don't be so afraid to say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. Accept people as they are and not as you want them to be. Accept people as they are and not as you want them to be. Realize that once you label somebody a jerk, once you call somebody a jerk, once you acknowledge in your head that that person is an idiot, then you'll probably never get their respect. And you probably no longer deserve it. If I want you to respect me, then I can't call you a jerk, because why do I have the right to call her a jerk? Well, of course she's going to call me a jerk. That's the way it happens. If I want somebody to respect me, then I owe it to them to respect them. Started thought. Respect is a two-way street. And there are people in the band that you're going to want to say, you know, that person is a total idiot. Well, so what? So are you. I mean, who's to say? You have to go out of your way not to write somebody off. Started thought. Emphasize the positive people. Emphasize the people who are doing it right. Go to those people who are not doing it and try and help them attitude-wise out of rehearsal, but don't constantly harp on those people, because, started thought, most of the people are fence sitters. You have your very good people, your very bad people, and most of them are on the fence. They don't know which way they're going to go. If you emphasize the negatives, that's the direction they're going to move in. Started thought. It is so important for you to support the people on your team. If somebody dares to criticize my assistant drum major with the drum corps, I will let them know I don't appreciate that, and I know we can do a heck of a lot better job than you can. Then I'll go back and say, listen, they said this. I think you better work on it. All right? But it's a matter of support. Praise in public, criticize in private. Praise in public, criticize in private. Here's another one. Started thought. Make sure that you concentrate on criticizing and improving the problem and not the person. Make sure you criticize and improve the problem, not the person. You say, Mary, we have to work on your marching style because the feet are not coming up right. Your marching style needs a lot of work. You don't say, Mary, what kind of dummy are you because you can't march? And that's the way some of you come off sometimes. You're just a real dummy. What's the matter with you? Why can't you get that right? That's not going to help them improve. Being a leader is something that you have an opportunity to do that people in your schools will not have. It is an opportunity that you have where hopefully you can take the ideas that we've had here, you can work them, develop them, and those things will be able to help you regardless of what you're doing. They'll help you work at McDonald's and become a manager. They'll help you become a future teacher, or they'll help you succeed in whatever areas you want to be. Being a leader is a great opportunity, but it is nothing that comes very easily.
People who become drum majors have to be willing to stand up for their feelings, their viewpoints, their values, and put them out sometimes when they're unpopular.
Yeah, that can be difficult, particularly when you're dealing with a band who may think one way and a director who may think another. But also involved in the leader is somebody who knows that he has to do what his leaders tell him to. Sometimes even if he doesn't go along with it, and that also that sometimes shows a real good leader, the one that can play the game as it has to be played, because of the leaders that are above him.
Right. Okay, so another thing that I notice is that even leaders are looking to follow examples.
Yes.
So you, as a teacher of these people, what do you see about that?
Well, I think you mentioned a key word in just talking about teachers, because I think that any leader has to be a great teacher, and that is a word that too many people don't understand, and there are too many, not to criticize teachers, but there are too many teachers that aren't necessarily teachers, people who know how to get an idea across, know how to make things better. A good leader, a good teacher has to be somebody who can take a product and make it better, and the people underneath of them will know that they are concentrating on making them better instead of thinking only of themselves. I like to think that the drum majors here know that my job here is to make them better, and they see that and they respect that, and therefore maybe the respect comes towards me. We have to get the drum majors to think the same way. If they let their bands know that they are working to help their bands improve and not concerned with themselves, their band members will learn to respect them more as leaders.
Okay, so one of the other things that seems clear for me is that to be a good leader, you have to set examples. Your rehearsals must start on time.
To be early is on time, and to be on time is to be late, the old saying.
Is that one of them?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, so punctuality, setting the example in every situation.
Every single way. Just, it's hot, it's miserable, and you don't want to be there, but you've got to go out and, wow, I'm ready to sweat. And you've got to show that kind of enthusiasm with everything you do. The band's level of enthusiasm is always going to be a notch under the leader's enthusiasm. And so if it's raining or if it's cold, you just have to get out there and just have to be so enthusiastic about what you're doing in order to get them to be enthusiastic. I mean, enthusiasm is probably everything.
Okay, what you just said was that in many cases, to be a leader, you have to get people to follow, and to get people to follow, sometimes you have to do things that feel not at all like you feel.
It's like, yeah, I want to be here, and I want to do this now, and sometimes you won't feel like it. Any leader is an actor, and they have to be able to play a part, and the part is just totally committed to what they are, and eventually the part becomes a reality. At first, the people may not really want to be there, but if they act the part long enough, then sometimes it will help them want to be there more. Not to say that a leader wouldn't always want to be there anyway, but of course we all have our up and down times.
Well, I think what you just said, I would like to think of it instead of what you said that you have to lie. In essence, the truth is that you have to transform your feeling into a feeling that's positive even when you don't feel like it.
Exactly, exactly. Last weekend we were out with my drum corps out in the East, and the East was having a heat wave. It was over 100 degrees out there, and if I allowed myself to show that, there'd be no way that we could get 120 people to work hard. So I just had to, wow, here we are, and isn't the sweat great?
So in essence, you put the value of the whole, the get the job done, ahead of your own personal feelings. So there's a degree of sacrifice that leaders have to put forth to get the whole to happen sometimes when it's not the way it seems like you should be right now.
Absolutely. You have to be willing, and in today's society where everything is so me-oriented, you have to be willing to say, I'm willing to give up something for my own personal self to allow the special quality of the group to happen. And through the special quality of the group, everybody then will have a more enriching experience.
Yeah, I was just recalling, you triggered a thought for me. One of the films we did, we talk about band people are willing to be a part a small part in a picture that is far greater than they could be by themselves.
Can't say any better than that.
And so the drum majors here in this camp are real, you know, a spark to the whole of it, and they do lead, and even in the workshops we do where your group is involved, the kids become the spirit leaders. They're the pride, they're the let's do it perfectly attitude, and the rest who are not in that group naturally fall in place because they want to be good too. And it's just a tremendous kind of thing that goes on. So, and I noticed the way you operate out there, and by your example, often I must feel that you don't feel like being out there. And the only reason I can think that you do it is that when you push yourself through that, the reward that you get from the result far outweighs the feeling at the time.
Absolutely. If there are any times that I'm tired and I'm not really in the mood, by knowing what the kids are getting and the enthusiasm that they put out helps feed me. And through that, it's all terribly worthwhile.
Well, it's a fitting ending for our conversation here. The Marines and Americana. Thank you very much, George.
Thank you.